This episode is brought to you by Ghost Patch. Ghost Patch is a law enforcement owned and operated company specializing in patches, coins, and flex shields. Quality is top priority with low prices. They always offer free design work and never charge mold or setup fees. Stop letting the big companies rip you off and check out Ghost Patch at ghostpatch.com and ghostpatchcustom.com. Now to the next story.
Canine was like the goal. I went on a canine track with another neighboring jurisdiction and go on the track, and the dog smokes a dude. I was like, holy shit. Like, that was the first time I saw a dog work. And then I'm like, I told my father the next day, I'm like, I want to be a canine guy. And when the police need the police, they call canine. So I'm like, that's where I'm going. So the next day I had this conversation with my father, told him the story, and I'm like, that's what I want to do. And never forget the line he said, then do what you got to do and, work your way towards it so they can't skip you for that job. The guys with success, how do they handle the dog? What are they doing on building searches? You kind of like watch, and I would play this like game in my head. Like, I would watch all the guys that I looked up to, and then I would try to be better than them. And it got to a point where I was like obsessive. I look back now, I'm like, what a loser. I was passing up vacations with my friends, like passing up going out because I was just train. I was doing all these training tracks on my own. Guy would run a search in a building at training, and I'd watch everything he did, and I want to do it better. And it was like this game I was playing, but I think it was setting me up for what was going to happen down the line. Yes, I was obsessed with canine, but there was a reason for it. I just didn't know it at the time. I was losing so much blood. My elbow was coming out my tricep. I was losing a ton of blood. I knew if I started panicking, I was fucking dead. That's when I kicked it in and was like, I'm not dying in this shithole. Where that housing project where I was like, I'm not dying in this shithole.
You're listening to the ATO Bridging the Divide podcast, brought to you by the Assist the Officer Foundation.
Since 1999, the ATO has given assistance to the first responder community, and now we want to give them a platform to hear their incredible stories.
We also want to hear the stories of the many people that support us.
Our community is small, but it is strong.
We have differences. We don't always agree, and we all make mistakes.
But together we can grow, we can heal.
And we can learn from those mistakes.
And together we can bridge the divide.
There's a bond between a police officer and their canine partner that's unlike anything else. It's not just a working relationship. It's a connection forged through trust, loyalty, and countless hours spent side by side, facing danger and uncertainty together. It's something you can't fully explain, but you can feel it. That bond was at the heart of Officer Billy Cushing's career in Braintree, Massachusetts. A career defined not only by dedication to the community, but by the unbreakable partnership he shared with his canine partner, KITT. Together, they were more than a team. They were brothers in arms, inseparable in purpose and spirit. What most people don't see, what they'll never fully understand, is the weight canine officers carry. The endless hours of training, the constant demand to be perfect, the pressure from command, and the second guessing that comes with every decision. There's criticism, there's scrutiny, and often there's a lack of understanding from those who've never done the job, never stood on a perimeter in the dark, heart pounding, with only one living being that they trust to have their back, their dog. That relationship, it's not just about commands and obedience. It's not about control. It's about a level of trust that runs deeper than words. A handler knows every look, every breath, every shift in their dog's posture. They feel when something's off, before a sound is even made. And the dog? The dog would give its life without hesitation, not because it was trained to, but because it wants to. Canine handlers live in a world most can't relate to. Their partner isn't just their coworker. It's family. It's a piece of their soul, wearing a badge. And when that partner is lost, when the leash goes slack for the last time, a part of the handler never comes back. Officer Billy Cushing lived that bond every single day with his partner, Canine KITT. To the world, they were a highly trained police team. Sharp, disciplined, effective. But to Billy, KITT was so much more. He was a protector, a shadow, a piece of his heart that walked beside him in silence, but spoke louder than any words ever could. Together they trained endlessly, not because they had to, but because Billy believed that if they were going to face the worst this world had to offer, they'd face it ready. Every bite drill, every trek through woods or alleyways, every controlled aggression session, it was all a promise that Billy would never ask KITT to do something he wasn't willing to do himself, a promise that if the moment ever came, they'd both run in, side by side. But that kind of dedication comes with sacrifice. There were days Billy felt the pressure from above, the doubt, the criticism, the endless questioning of decisions made in the heat of a moment that most people never have to live through. Yet through it all, he kept showing up. Not just for the job, but for KITT. Because when you have a partner like that, quitting is not an option. And then the unthinkable happened. On June 4th, 2021, Canine KITT gave his life in the line of duty protecting Billy and fellow officers during a violent confrontation. He took the bullet meant for someone else. He died a hero. But more than that, he died doing exactly what he was born to do. Serve, protect, and love without question. But what remains is the legacy. A story of courage, loyalty, and a bond that defies words. This is the story of Officer Billy Cushing and Canine KITT. A team built not just on training and trust, but on love. The kind of love that never dies. So I was talking to Joe a while back. We throw ideas around constantly about who we want to bring on, and I was like, man, I got this guy from the Boston area that has a badass story I really want to tell. And I said, man, next time he comes down, if he ever makes it down here again, we got to have him on.
Yeah, I know you and I were kicking it around over text for over a year now.
It wasn't even 2 weeks later that Scott's like, hey, Boston boys are coming back. Let's see what we can do. And I was like, oh, right away I text Joe. I was like, hey, he's coming. Like, let me see if I can get him on. And Joe's like, put it together. Let's do it. So here we are. Let's start with the easy stuff, though. Talk about growing up, man. What was your childhood like?
I grew up in Braintree, Massachusetts, where I eventually ended up becoming a police officer. My dad was a police officer in Braintree, so that was kind of like, I looked up to him, seeing him wear the uniform. So from a early point in my life, I knew that's what I wanted to do. So Braintree is population of around 40,000 people. The police department is about 85 officers top to bottom. It was kind of not a sleepy town, but not crazy growing up there. It was pretty safe. You could ride your bike around town and not have an issue. So it was a good place to grow up.
As far as, can you describe like the type of crimes that they have there and just the scenery?
Yeah, we have a large shopping mall, Social Plaza in Braintree, which is a bunch of our calls. The place is kind of a shit show down there. It always has been. It was deemed neutral gang territory for like the city kids to come in there, but there's been a bunch of stuff that's happened in the past, and it can get pretty wild down there. But we also have a couple housing projects that are a lot of our calls. A lot of our time is focused there. But other than that, it's just your it's a blue collar town. It's a nice spot.
How long did your father work for that PD?
36 years.
Nice.
So with him being there for 36 years and you watching him do it the entire time, that was a huge influence on you. And was that part of staying in Braintree?
Yeah, there was I didn't have any like plan B. It was It was kind of the relationship with my father was strange because my parents got divorced when I was young, but I kind of took my mother's side. My sister took his side, but I still like looked up to him. Him having the uniform and hearing he'd still tell me the stories, but it was kind of strange. But I think when I finally got hired, that's when we became like super close. My father and I it was kind of odd.
Was he still on when you were hired?
He was, yeah. So we had a couple of years together, which is I used to take overtime on his shift, so we'd be able to work together. So it was pretty cool time.
What rank did he actually retire at?
He was just a patrolman. He did detectives back and forth a couple times, but then he was assigned to communications his last few years there. So
That's wild.
We had some good times.
36 years as a patrolman.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, he would like on the night shift he'd like rip cigarettes inside the building, and I'd be like, "What the fuck are you doing?" And he's like, "Let them fire me." He just you know when you get to that point you don't care. He'd do whatever he wanted.
So before you hired on with Braintree, what'd you do?
I worked in corrections for 5 years. And the funny thing about corrections, the jail that I was working at, they said if you were there more than 5 years, you were staying there. And I literally got out in 5 years, like 5 years to the day. And I was jumped ship and got on the PD.
Was that because they said if you stayed over 5 years, you were stuck?
No, I think I was getting nervous, but it's just the way it worked out. But I learned a ton there. That's a whole nother story.
No, that's a big part of it, too. I know a lot of guys that have worked corrections before they've been police officers, and it seems like they kind of have a little bit more insight into not only just the process of how the jail works and everything, but also just dealing with the criminal
mind.
Yes, and I think corrections officers don't get the kudos that they deserve. They're kind of like the forgotten brother of law enforcement, but you're locked inside with these people. You can't drive down the street and get a coffee. You're literally doing time with them, and you don't have. The only tools you have on your belt is your radio. So it's 90 inmates to one officer. Anything over 90, or anything over 72 was two officers, but 72 and under, you versus them. So if you don't learn communication skills, you're gonna have a fucking hard time.
Yeah, no, that sounds like a fun party. One versus 72.
Well, it exposes you to violence and unpredictable people, and also puts you in. You start getting the skills of being hyper vigilant.
Correct.
Because you have to be.
Yeah, and then you get on the PD and you know all the players in the game because you're seeing the same faces.
Yeah, and you can also pick up on just the behaviors.
Right.
Because of criminal behavior, because they're there for a reason.
Right.
They started somewhere.
Yeah, and even searches, like when you see like a former corrections guy or a woman doing searches, you're like, okay, they worked in a jail or prison. It's just different than what you learn at the police academy.
Just being around the worst of the worst every day,
right,
in very close proximity. Yeah, that's a hell of an experience.
So if Braintree was your only option,
it was.
There was no failing, right?
No, that was it.
So, do they have their own police academy?
No, it's like a regional.
And the regional ones are usually tougher, from what I've heard, than the local.
Yeah, I will say though, my corrections academy blew my talking about like how hard it was 10 times harder than the police academy.
Just physically or
both?
Yeah.
Yeah, and I don't know if it was because I was young and dumb and didn't know what I was getting into, but I remember like day one of my corrections academy, I was like, holy shit, like why am I even doing this? But then when I went to the police academy, I'm like, this is nothing.
So why did you choose corrections first?
It was kind of my father kind of talked me into that. He's like, you're either going to the military or corrections as like a stepping stone. So it was kind of like it lined up. I had a little stint playing college hockey, but I forgot you had to go to class. You couldn't just play hockey, so I forgot to go to class a few times and ended up failing out pretty quick. So I had two options.
Corrections will hire you at a younger age as well, won't they?
Yeah, no one wants to work there either. It's tough. They can. They're pretty much giving jobs away to go do that. So that's what I did.
So how long was your police academy?
26 weeks. I think it could have been condensed down to, I don't know, how many weeks do you guys do down here?
9 months.
40 or 42, somewhere.
Is it really?
Yeah, it's one of the longest ones in the nation. It was back 20 years ago.
Is it like, when you get to week like 30, is it like monotonous that you could just...
No, it picks up actually. So you do all the book work at the beginning,
okay,
and the policies and Texas Penal State Code and,
okay,
or CCP, and then you start getting more tools. You get a uniform, ramps up with the driving and the realistic scenarios.
So I think ours you could shorten it a little bit. They were towards the end. They were like looking for classes for us to do. It was kind of like, what do we?
Well, I mean, it could definitely be shortened up when we have all these extracurricular courses for liability and purposes
Right.
and everything else, like usual with every academy, I'm sure, across the United States.
Yeah, and some of the classes are just like filler classes, and instead of like going to the range and doing more firearms training or stuff that you'd actually need, it's these like bullshit classes that they're just fillers.
It was like the substitute teacher in high school would drag in a cart that had a VHS and an old TV just to play bullshit while he stood there at the desk.
Yep.
Yeah.
At the same time, though, they're not going to shorten a police academy.
No.
Right? There's not a chief in the world who's going to say, hey, you know what, we don't need that much training. Even if it's just for optics of, hey, we put on this long of training and they attend this many hours of training, that reason alone, they're never going to shorten it.
Right.
Well, how did you acclimate to that academy? I mean, you had already had this you grew up in the law enforcement world from your father, and then you have this, you walk in the door with more tools than probably the people that you were in that academy class with, just from even skill level. And you're reading people already. You've already done it for 5 years. So how did you acclimate to that?
I think it was easy. It was almost like it was a breeze going through that academy, and obviously there was that's what I wanted to do, and I was happy to be out of the jail. My God, like getting out of there was like a huge win. So honestly, the police academy was a breeze. It was actually like a fun time.
Yeah.
I think that's what cops don't realize too. They were like, oh, the academy sucks. It's probably your funnest time. When I look back, I had so much fun in the police academy.
It's big for us here, and because it's a local academy, because it's just Dallas guys, and you might eventually catch like an arson guy or somebody who's rolling through with the marshals or something, but you remember your people from your academy class. Like you're trapped in there with them for good or bad, right?
Right.
But it's 8 months, and that's a long time to really get to know people, and you form relationships with those people, and you see each other
At an early age. You're
Right.
a young man.
That also.
Going through this the same thing with everyone else.
Right.
So, yeah.
It's like a trauma bond.
Yeah, it's
Really,
the same with
I
boot
know.
camp,
Yeah.
military.
So, Braintree, you obviously didn't just jump straight into K9, right? You had
No.
an earlier patrol career.
I did, and that was to speak on that. The K9 was like the goal. I went on a K9 track with another neighboring jurisdiction, and he needed a volunteer to be the backup guy. I'm brand new, and I'm like, yeah, I'll go with you. So we go on the track, and the dog smokes a dude. I was like, holy shit! Like that was the first time I saw a dog work. And then I'm like, I'm going. I told my father the next day, I'm like, I want to be a K9 guy. And they go to all K9 guys go to all the good calls, and when the police need the police, they call K9.
Right.
So I'm like, that's where I'm going. So
Nice.
yeah, but that was my first thing. Seeing that dog work, I was like, as you hear the stories, the haters will be like, those dogs don't work. Like, oh, the dogs work like 1 out of 100 times, and I saw this dog work, and I was like, oh man, like this guy gets paid to do this, so you go to all the good stuff.
Well, there's good dogs and bad dogs, just like there's good cops and bad cops, right?
It's true.
But usually, it's not the dog's fault that
Good
he's not a
trainers
great
and
dog.
bad trainers.
Right. So that was so the next day I had this conversation with my father, told him the story, and I'm like, that's what I want to do. And his never forget the line. He said, then do what you got to do, and work your way towards it, so they can't skip you for that job. And I was like, okay, that was everything. I'm like, build cases, go out and work, and when the time comes, when they post a spot, a K9 spot, don't give them a reason to skip you. And that's what I did. That was like from that day forward, I just started.
How sought after were those jobs in that department?
Oh,
Yeah.
because we're not huge, so they're not putting 5 dogs on at one time.
Of course.
You like maybe one every 8 years. So like if you don't have your shit together, like you're gonna miss the boat. I worked pretty hard to for that not to happen, and I eventually got it.
Clearly worked out.
Yeah, it did.
So we just talked about basically how they select it, but is there an actual process for the application?
It was pretty much just submit a letter of intent when they posted the spot, and no interviews or anything. Now I think they do some interviews, but it was submit your letter, and we knew the chief at the time, like he was gonna like look at your stats to see if you were like some shitbag or you were actually out there like working. So,
How many dogs did you have on the department?
at that time we had 5. We were heavy with dogs. then.
Yeah, out of 85 people to have 5 dogs.
Yeah. Yeah, and we had a couple that were towards the end of their career, and that's why they wanted to put a couple other ones on, but it was just, the timing was just perfect.
We had 3,000 people when I only had 4 dogs. That was
huge disparity.
I caught it in the downswing and got out before it picked back up.
How many other people put in their litters when you did?
There was a bunch that put in.
Not bad.
But, you know, like, not to sound like cocky, I wasn't like, I did work hard, so I knew, like, I was...
Yeah, you knew you had a good shot because you have to be intentional about building your reputation. Because, listen, if you have a lazy shitbag reputation, that's going to walk in the door before you come in or before you even write a letter.
Right, and I think the other guys that put in knew that that I probably should get this.
Yeah.
So, and then the rest is history.
How did your department actually select dogs, and what was the training like for the dog and the handler?
So they pretty much would put you in a van with the trainer, and you would drive to the location. We were getting the dogs in Connecticut at the time, and it was basically an interview with you and the trainer, and then he would pick the dog based on your personality. And that's, you heard that's what was going on, but he would ask you a bunch of questions, and then you go down there, test dogs, and you didn't have a choice, like, I want that dog. I'll tell that story in a few minutes, too, because it was kind of cool. The dog I wanted, like, you don't know what you're talking about with dogs. You just listen to the trainer, and I wanted a different dog than the dog I got. So, want me to go into that now?
Yeah, get it.
So we go down there, and they start pulling dogs out, and we're testing dogs, and tested a few dogs, and they bring this dog out that was, the dog's name was Ciro was the dog's name. There was 2 brothers, Sear and Ciro, and they bring Ciro out, and gorgeous dog, black, all black with just these like brown stripes on his front legs. So I'm like, holy shit, this dog's gorgeous. So he comes out, they test him, and the trainer's like, we're taking him. So I'm like, oh great, this is going to be my dog. So then we're going to put him in the van and get out of there. And the guy at the kennel is like, we have one more dog that just came in if you want to see him. So the trainer's like, yeah, let me see him. So he brings KITT out, and he looked like just shit. He was all like matted fur. He didn't look like the other dogs. He was red, and he looked like a dingo, like a wild dingo. And I was like, what the fuck is this dog? And as soon as he came out, there was a 5-gallon bucket of water with like some of like Kongs in it and stuff that they just wash off of the other dogs. He bit the barrel, the bucket, and fired the bucket, and all the toys and the water went everywhere. And the trainer's like, we're fucking taking him. And I was like, you gotta be shitting me. They're gonna put Ciro back, and we're taking this dog. And they did a couple other things, but he's like, we're taking that dog. And then he literally put him in the van. The guy at the kennel was like, you want me to give him a bath? And he's like, nope, put him in there. And I didn't know what was going on. He's like, we just stole this dog from them. This dog's going to be a legend. And I didn't think, I'm like, he looks like shit.
Yeah, so you're thinking this dog looks horrible.
Yeah.
He
and he didn't look like any other dog.
All the toys.
Yeah, he didn't look like any other dog in the training group.
And that's what you got from me from the drive to Connecticut?
Yeah. That's, yeah.
Is that because, I mean, did they see something, obviously, when he went after the toys?
Yeah, he just said, like, when I look back to, he came out with, like, he was cocky. He came out like, you know, this was his kennel, no one else's kennel. And you could even tell the guy that running the kennel was kind of like, just how he was handling was different than there was like 8 or 9 other dogs there. And he was almost like scared of this dog.
What breed?
He was a Shepherd Mallee mix.
It's a dingo.
Yeah, he did.
Dingo?
That's what they was called. They called him like the guys in the like the trainers were calling him the missing link or a dingo. When we got him, he just looked like a wild animal.
How big was he?
He was 80 pounds.
Okay.
Yeah.
Can I add something here? It's I'm over here laughing at you. You tell this part of your story, Billy, because it's so similar to when Figor was picked for me, and Wolverton, you went down and helped select Figor, but when they sent pictures of Figor back, and again, I didn't know really anything about dogs, but I'm like, this is the sack of shit y'all are picking for me?
Right.
I mean, you could literally count every single rib that it had. Its pelvis was showing, its shoulder blades were showing, and I'm thinking, we could have gone down the street to the Dallas Animal Shelter, South Dallas, and picked something that looks this good.
Right.
But I'm over here smiling at listening to you tell that part of the story because my thoughts were similar to yours. And then what's so amazing is we both had 2 dogs that really weren't certain, is this what you're actually picking for us to use? But yet we have such similar stories in what our dogs did for us and help saving our lives.
We got a 1 in a million dog, the both of us, and we didn't even know it.
Right.
So, and if you look at like seeing Scott's dog and mine, they do have like some similarities too. It's kind of crazy, like their muscular build and stuff. It's kind of it's pretty crazy, the whole thing.
I'm glad you love your dog. I took a lot of pride. That was actually, I wanted that dog, and I was kind of hoping that you didn't, so that I could try to talk my way into having Figor. But
will you touch on the joke of why you picked that dog? I came from mounted.
Yeah, so you were riding horses before you came over to play with dogs, and Figor's basically a horse dog. I mean, he is like Marmaduke, just a huge dog that I was like, that's the closest thing to a horse he's going to get. Yeah, it was obvious at that point once I saw that dog.
Figor was 12 hands and weighed 120 pounds.
I was bringing him home. He only weighed like 6 pounds. He wasn't anywhere close to 100 pounds. So how does your group train? Do you guys just train with the 5 dogs that you've got?
It's a 16-week patrol academy to start, and it's pretty much the thing. It's like crawl, walk, run. Do a ton of apprehension stuff, ton of building searches, but our primary thing up there is tracking. Like that's our group is known as like we're the tracking group. So
now are they just searching dogs, or do they actually do narcotics
no,
detection?
Just single
also?
Purpose. Which
yeah.
I was, we do have some like dual purpose dogs now. Some of them are like ballistic and then patrol, or dope dogs and in patrol. But my chief didn't want to do dual purpose. He's like, I just want a dog that can track. So I was fine with that.
That's an interesting perspective from a chief too. Usually they want them to do as much as they
yeah,
can.
No, he wanted at that time we had a single purpose lab that was working, and our chief was like, I think it's more opportunity too because we're not a big department, so he didn't want to like, if you do a dual purpose dog, you're taking a specialty from another person. So I think that was his thinking too.
He didn't want the Swiss Army knife dog. He just wanted
sharp. You to focus on one thing.
Now you also train with neighboring departments, correct?
Yes. Yeah, we have about it's over 70 departments that we train with. Our canine group is pretty big, and it goes all the way down to like Cape Cod, and we'll go to some cities north of Boston.
How did you guys work that out logistically? Like how many days a week or month?
It was pretty much the drug dogs would go on Tuesday, patrol dogs would go on Thursday, but then it got so big they opened it up to you could just email or call the trainer and be like, I'm coming Monday. So because usually they were running canine classes all the time, so you could just jump in whenever you wanted. So
that part's unique also for canine guys. That when you start working with other handlers and you start working with other dogs, you start to pick up different tips and tricks, and there's another bond that you get with other handlers when you're dealing with the dogs. Can you get into that a little bit?
Yeah, I didn't tell my friends that I was doing this, but my thing with it being in canine, I used to, Scott and I have talked about this. You watch people and I'm sure you do that. Every guy in a specialty does this. You watch certain guys to see the guys with success. How do they handle the dog? What are they doing on building searches? You kind of like watch, and I would play this like game in my head. Like I would watch all the guys that I looked up to, and then I would try to be better than them. And it got to a point where I was like obsessive. I look back now, I'm like, what a loser. Like the stuff I was doing, I was passing up vacations with my friends, like passing up going out because I was just train. I was doing all these training tracks on my own, but that's what I used to do. I used to watch. A guy would run a search in a building at training, and I'd watch everything he did, and I'd want to do it better. And it was like this game I was playing, but I think it was setting me up for what was going to happen down the line. So I look back on that. Yes, I was obsessed with canine, but there was a reason for it. I just didn't know it at the time.
You almost have to be obsessed with it. It's not an 8-hour job or a 7-hour job, or it's a 24-hour job that you have with that dog because you're training it constantly. Like even if you're not doing anything, you're training that dog to, hey, be cool for this
right.
time, right? And that's probably one of the bigger struggles if you have a dog that wants to work is just getting that dog to chill out.
Right.
So I love the idea of the canine thing, and I have apprehension about leaving the canine thing, but I needed to do it. I know I needed to. But man, it's so cool to watch the dogs work and the relationships the handlers build with their dogs.
And they build with their family.
Right.
Yeah,
right,
no, I mean
right.
it
It is part of family. I've had a lot of partners in my career, but I never took them home.
even in the unit, you build relationships with the other handlers and their dogs, so their dogs' tendencies. It's really unique in the police world to have an animal partner that's as aware of what's going on, and that's one of the really unique things about dogs is they are aware. They can tell how you feel. They can tell that you're going to work. They learn everything. And then once you realize that they're learning at the same time, and it's really cool to watch it all come together.
Yeah, we also talked about that. Like when you see your dog, the learning process of how to track, and then when you see the dog start to actually work, you're like head spinning, like, oh my God, like this is all I just have to hold a leash and the dog does this. Like people don't realize how smart these dogs are. It is work, but we're just the ones holding the leash. But I always say that to canine guys too. Like some canine guys just want the take home car and the different uniform, and they want to drive around. Like if you're in it for that, like you probably suck.
Everybody knows. You can tell as soon as it happens.
Yep.
So the guys that you brought to Dallas with you the first time, they were all part of your training group, right?
Yes.
Talk about those guys a little bit.
Oh, those guys are. Yeah, I have my friends on the department that I worked at, but though these guys are like, it's hard to explain. It's like on a different level. Like you have your friends, but these guys would, if you called them, can you come over and cut my grass? They would be like, yeah, okay. They wouldn't be like, why, you can't do it. There's something about canine guys that are different than other cops. And that's, they say we're like a pack of idiots. We are, but we would do anything for one another. And I know they've helped me more than they'll ever know. I do tell them that too. Like without them, I would be in a whole different spot than I was, like with the mental health stuff from what's happened to me. They've just been, it's hard to explain. And now this bond that him and I have is the same thing. It's like two canine weirdos, and now we're like connected forever.
No, that's really cool, and I wanted to get into that a little bit later with Scott. But those guys that you brought with you the first time, it was really cool to watch you guys just like there wasn't any work here, right? This was a kind of a getaway, but you could see that there was that relationship. And
and I put that text out. This is what I'm doing. I'm going down there to meet this guy. If anyone wants to come, you're more than welcome. But either way, I'm going. And it was like 15 minutes, and I had 11 guys respond saying like, yeah, we're going to Dallas.
Yeah, 12 deep. Here we come.
Yeah, it was wild.
It was fun to see you guys at the airport too. That was a
trip. We still talk about that ride back. It was pretty fun.
All right, let's get into some actual canine work. March of 2016. Tell us about that track.
So I was home sleeping. It was 1:30 in the morning, and I get a phone call from my lieutenant, and this is like wild that he said this, but he goes, do you mind coming in? He gives me the address, and he goes, can you come in and find this guy so we don't have to shoot and kill him? That's what he said on the phone to me, and I'm half asleep. I'm like, yeah, okay, like let's go. So I roll up to the scene. There's two officers in front of the house, which is usually you would roll up and they'd be like, hey, the guy ran that way. Let us know if you need us. You go alone a lot of the time. But this night, one of them had a lethal shotgun. The other guy had a less lethal shotgun. And I was like, what's the deal with this guy? And they're like, he's nuts. So I'm like, okay. So right then it's like, okay, this has happened a bunch of times already. I already had some success with the dog, so I wasn't like some big call. And long story short, we end up tracking through some yards, a street over, and I was telling the guys, I'm like, this dude's definitely close. The call was he broke into the mother of his children's house, and she was there with her elderly father, and he tried to knife his way into the bathroom. They had to barricade themselves in the bathroom. He was trying to knife his way in. She said she was calling the police. He takes off on foot. So it's pretty good call. So we track, and I tell the guys I'm with, I'm like, that we're definitely close by the dog's behavior. And then sure as shit, KITT tries to go under this car, and I see the guy. He's like laying face first, his chest down on the ground under this car parked in this driveway. So I give him I'm just talking to him like how we're talking. I'm like, buddy, dude, just come out. My dog's going to fuck you up if I send him under the car. Just please come out. And he was just giving me this 1,000-yard stare that we all know. And I was like, this guy is he something wrong with this guy? Like, this dog is in his face about to rip him apart, and he's not even blinking. He's just staring at me. So then he yells out, you don't know what's going to happen, but you're about to die. Like something like that. He said, you're about to die. And I'm like, what the fuck? Sure as shit, he crawls out from under the car, comes out, pulls this big knife out of his waistband. And then I'm like, I got to launch the dog. Launch the dog. KITT grabs onto his right lat. Is fucking tearing him apart. And this guy's just raining blows with a knife down on the dog. Not even fazed by an 80-pound dog hanging onto him. So one of my cover guys dumps 4 beanbag rounds, from 10 feet away, fucking buries this guy. One of the rounds actually severed his finger. Did nothing. The beanbag, it was like they were just bouncing off like nothing. So then now I'm starting to he's closing the distance on me. So now we're pretty much face to face. He's raining blows with the knife on me now. And there was nothing I could do. So I couldn't even draw and punch out. I just literally had to you guys know, you're breaking leather, and I fired 2 rounds and, ended the threat. And it's one of those, you make a decision that ultimately changes your life forever, and you don't even know it. And that's the thing, cops get shit on for OISs. That was the last thing I thought was going to happen. It was
probably the last thing you wanted to do.
Yeah, I was like, holy shit, this just happened. But so then it's the whole other thing. Now I'm like, I got to check my dog. This guy's done. The other 2 guys start rendering aid. And now I'm like, I got to make sure my dog's not bleeding out. And it was, I'll tell you, you go from one extreme to the other. Just in a shooting, just kill a guy in a side yard. Now I'm walking my dog back to my cruiser because I'm thinking my dog's going to be dead in a minute. And I cut across this yard, and this neighbor, can't make this shit up, he yells out his window, "Get your fucking dog off my grass." This was 30 seconds after what just happened. I'm like, are you fucking kidding me? Dude, you have no idea what just happened, and you're telling me to get off your fucking grass at 2 a.m? So it just shows you how one extreme to the other, you're fighting for your life, and then this asshole's yelling at you. So that was not funny, but it was funny after. I'm like, people, you didn't hear what was going on outside. So yeah, so that was that. And then to make the whole thing even stranger was that woman who called. I didn't know at the time who called. You're looking for a bad guy. I went to high school with her. I was friends in high school with her. So now I'm like, there was so many emotions after. They send you to the hospital. I didn't know why I was going to the hospital. There's no class in the academy that had post-shooting stuff or after-action stuff. They're like, you going to the hospital? Why? Because who's taking my dog? Oh, we'll just bring him back to the station. I was like, bring him back to the station?
That's not how that works.
He has a cubicle. He's just going to go sit down and type reports.
They did too. I was ordered to go to the hospital. They had someone else take my cruiser with my dog. So I was like, what are you going to do with them? They're like, we'll just leave them out in the back parking lot and shut your car off and lock the doors. That's what it was like. So you're going from the fight of your life to the mandatory, you got to go to the hospital, which I didn't know at the time. That was protocol. We don't have, I think there was, before that one, there was 2 OISs in the history of the department that people actually got shot. So they didn't know, it's not I know you guys have plenty, but it's not, there was no protocols for what happens after. So yeah, it was fucking a wild night.
No, it sounds like it. So were there any injuries for you? Did you actually
None.
get stabbed?
No, I did not.
No?
Nope.
And KITT?
No, luckily I think all his were on his the collar that he was wearing. It was
just superficial stuff?
Yeah, and I talking to those guys after, the 2 guys that were with me, they were like, you closed the distance and you guys were nose to nose. And that was the other thing about that people don't understand with cops getting in shootings. There's different ones. I wasn't just shooting into some bushes. We had him and we conversed with each other. This wasn't no word said, where it's 2 guys face to face And he's like, I'm going to fucking kill you. And I was like, dude, you're about to fucking die. And you're going to fucking die. So that was like a thing that fucked me up after. Because it wasn't like, I'm not going to say like it would be different if I didn't like I just said, shoot into the bushes. But this was like a...
Would be different.
Yeah. This is like a hand-to-hand
what you're talking
thing
about
with...
is very intimate.
Yes.
You had a connection.
Yeah, it was face-to-face, and we were like talking to each other. That was the last thing I wanted to do, but those were the words that was said. And that, after the fact, it was like, holy shit. Like, this is where the town, like sleepy Braintree that I grew up, I just had to do this near a place that I would like hang out when I was in like junior high. So
did you know at that point that KITT wasn't injured?
Yes, because I went back. I had like literally like 2 minutes before they were like, get in the ambulance. And that time, again, 2 a.m, just after 2 a.m, the media got there and like, obviously they're like scanning and listening. I remember sitting in the back of the ambulance and they were all showing up, and I'm like, either like move this ambulance or I'm just gonna get out of here, because they started like filming. It was I didn't know what the hell was going on.
How did KITT respond to all that with the?
He seemed fine after, but he did act strange. Like after we get a live bite, the trainer usually wants to see the dog again and kind of he'll like reenact the same call. But I could tell he was acting different. That was like the day he was like super. From that day on, like overprotective. If you came to my house and he was out, he was gonna fuck you up. Like it was. If we were watching TV, he'd want to sit on my lap. Like it was like a whole nother level of our bond. And I actually asked the vet, and the vet's like, whatever you're feeling is running right down the leash. So if you're stressed out or having some issues, I can guarantee your dog is too. So
Very empathic.
Yeah. But it was definitely different after that. Obviously it was different for me after you.
You both changed.
Yeah, like some of the people, I don't care if you're military or whatever you are, like we have some guys that I worked with that would be like, oh, I could, drop a guy right now and be fine. No, you have no idea what you're talking about.
Right.
Yeah, like those people, I'm like, you have no idea what you're talking about. And almost, can I go on?
Absolutely.
I always looked up to guys in my canine group. There was a couple guys that were involved in officer-involved shootings. And not that I did look up to them, but I always put myself in their shoes, asking, like, how would I react if they did that? Or not wanting to be them, but I used to be like, yeah, I wonder how that was. Stupid. I was, like, comparing myself to that. Almost like, how would I react in that situation? And then you actually do it, and you're like, why did I ever fucking think like that? Because now
Careful what you wish for.
Yeah, and I tell, like, younger, newer cops that, like, don't wish for this, because it's like a boulder that you carry around forever.
It's not like the movies.
No. Yeah, they watch TV and like there's like dudes are getting in like 2 shootings a shift. It's like, and they just go back to work and they're having dinner with their family. Like, no.
Lethal weapon.
Yeah.
How did your department
Blue Bloods, they drop every shift. They're dropping someone. And it's like, yeah, whatever.
Yeah, Danny,
but
he's on it.
He is.
Oh, Danny Reagan. How did the department handle everything after that, as far as getting you back to work and bringing you in? Did they mandate any therapy or anything?
Yeah, so I had 3 shootings in 5 years, 3 different chiefs. So the first one, the chief I love this guy. This guy is like the best guy in the world. I'd rather have like a chief be like him than someone thinking they know everything. He came in and to the hospital and he's like, I've never been through this, so bear with me. We're going to get you what you need. We're going to do everything we can for you. I'm just unsure of like how we're going to do it, which I would rather that than when I go to talk about the second one, you're going to be like, what? So it was kind of like refreshing to hear that from him. I wasn't like, oh man, he doesn't know what he's doing. He's the nicest guy in the world. I know he would never try to screw me, and I was good with what he said. But I will say they sent me to this, like, it's like a legit mental hospital after, like, you got to go to this place. And they sent me there. And I walked in there and I was like, what the fuck am I at?
Right.
Like, they sent me to, like, a crazy hospital to
Shutter
get, like,
Allen.
It was, too. And the lady was very nice that I talked to. But I'm like, I'm not supposed to be here. Like, this is, like, I wasn't, like...
But that came from a place of misunderstanding and not knowing
yeah.
what to do.
So I was
rather
there
than-
about a half hour, and they dropped me off there. I don't know how long, if I was staying for days or what the fuck I was doing, but I called one of my friends, and I was like, get me out of this fucking place. I'm not sitting here talking to these people. They didn't even, when I told the woman, like, she's like, why are you here? Why did they send you here? And I was like, because I killed somebody. And she was like horrified. Like, they didn't tell her that there was a police officer coming in that was just involved in this. This was a few days after. So I get a ride out of there. I called my chief and was like, he's like, what's the deal? I'm like, I'm not going to that fucking place. And he's like, all right, well, just let me know when you want to come back to work. I was like, okay. So a couple weeks later, it was just under 4 weeks. I'm like, I got to go back to work because I didn't want, like, my father's group to be like this, you know, your kid's soft, like, get him back to work. Like, this isn't that bad. So I came back to work in just under a month, way too quick. I tell guys that, like, I talk to now, like, take some time to yourself and process everything because you can't process it in 3 weeks.
Right.
This is the second shooting?
This is the first one.
Oh, this is the first one. Okay.
Yeah. So I come back to work way too quick. And if this is a true story I'm going to tell you. One of the first shifts I get back to work, same shit. I have to track, like, this man with an arm with a knife. I end up tracking him. We end up, like, converging on him on a baseball field. And he's, like, jammed in left field between the two fences. So it was, like, nowhere for him to go. And he's like, kill me. He's got the knife. I'm like, holy shit. So the guy I was with was from a neighboring department. He had a taser. So I'm like, you got to, like, tase this guy because if I shoot 2 guys in a month, I'm going to fucking get committed. This is what I'm saying as this guy's waving a knife in the air and I have my dog.
These aren't the thoughts you want to be having at this time.
No. If we had body cams and they heard me saying that, like, I can't shoot this guy, people would be like, what do you... And even he was like, what do you want to do? And I was like, I'm going to fucking launch the dog at him. And then you're going to tase him at the same time. And we did. And it worked. But then after that call, I'm like, I got to go back out. I got to take some time off because I can't be saying that.
The awareness, though, that you had right there of, I don't need to be back here.
Yeah.
And having the courage to say, hey, I don't need to be here, that's huge. I mean,
Right.
there's so many people that go through the same thing, and instead of just saying, hey, look, this isn't right, they're just like, well, I guess we're going to make this work, you
Right.
know, and we talk about it all the time about how this new wellness unit, and we say new, it's been here for a couple years now, but it's in its infancy. We're figuring those things out as we go with it. You know, there's no book on how to handle individuals and mental issues that come from these positions and these incidents that we go through. So I applaud you for being aware of, I'm not where I need to be, because the next thing we see is either you get into the same situation and you don't perform where you should, or you find a different vice and try to deal with it through that. So I'm glad you went through what you went through and that you handled it the way you did, because there's people that watched you, right?
Right.
All those guys that you work with and the neighboring agencies watched you do it and do it the right way.
Right.
So did you choose any therapy after that personally?
Yes. Yep. I talked to someone on the regular after that, and then that's when I started having, like, conversations with these guys that have done it. The canine guys that I was talking about, I would ask them 100 questions. I would constantly call them, like, hey, should I be because I was thinking, you dreaming, people who say they, like, aren't fucked up after it, like, it affects your eating, your sleeping. You constantly think about it, especially right after. Like, you're replaying it. Like, should I have moved left? Should I have done this? Should I have done that? But, like, it's just the way it goes.
The science of the brain, I'm not as well versed as some people on it, but it's fascinating how it manages the rest of your life, right?
Right.
And one incident can set you on a different journey.
Right.
You reached out to a counselor. How did you find this counselor?
We do have a pretty good peer support team at our place, and they were like, they were on it after. One of them, I talked to on the regular, and I told her, like, this isn't, I got to talk to someone about this, but there wasn't, EAP wasn't what it was in 2016, what it is now. Like, where, like, you guys do great stuff, and I think we we do great stuff at our place too. There's a detective, Christine Leiden, that is like, she's helped me through so much. She doesn't even know how much she's helped me too.
There is a big movement in wellness in law enforcement and in the fire world. I mean, it's long overdue, but there is a movement nationwide. I mean, I start reading on Police One or seeing all these other police articles about this agency starting up a wellness unit. Because, in 2016, I could speak on what we had here from peer support. It really wasn't. It was basically have like 10 or 15 volunteers. And I'll be honest, half of them shouldn't have been in that role.
Right.
Train them up and they sit there and wait. And then there was no education on how to even get a hold of these people, who they were, where you could find them. And we had city psych docs, but for critical incident response, it was really lacking compared to now. We don't have it all figured out now, but we're much better.
Yeah, we're much better too. But we had the same problem that you said. Like there was some people in the unit before that. Like,
yeah,
I wouldn't ask like what time it is, and
right.
You think I'm gonna like tell you my how screwed up I am. Like
picking the right people is key.
Right. There was another one too. I'll add this.
Send it.
When I was at the hospital, they you don't again. There's no. The police academies in Mass, there might be now, but it's not what it should be. After action stuff, they put me in a room in the hospital, and then they put the bad guy, the room right next to me, literally, so I could hear what was going on. And I knew what the deal was when I left the scene, but this nurse, who was probably just being nice, kept coming in, and she's like, "Hey, sweetie, we're doing our best to try to save him." And I'm like, is she like joking with me? And then she came in again and said the same thing, like, they're still working. And I'm like, what the fuck?
Stop the updates.
Yeah, like, I already know he's fucking dead. So what, are you trying to make me feel better? Like, it was just, the whole thing, the vibe at the hospital was weird.
Imagine it would be. I mean, being in the room right next door would
Nuts.
be.
Yeah.
So you said you were involved in 3 shootings in 5 years, correct?
Yes, yep.
May 2017, is that your next one?
That's the next one. So I told a guy that had been through this literally that day that hopefully this doesn't happen to me again. Hopefully this is because, my department, like, hopefully one and you're done. So I'm like, hopefully this doesn't happen again. So May 5th, 2017, wasn't even my area. They just wanted the dog down there. One of my buddies calls me and he's like, "Hey, we're going to go serve a warrant at this local shithole. Like, we're always at this hotel. It's like a motel. Horrible." So he's like, "Do you want to, can you come down in case we need KITT?" So I was like, "Yeah, I'll come down." So I didn't think anything, just in case something happens, they want the dog there. Luckily, we had the right guys there because we had a plan going. This is like a regular occurrence. We go there and we knock on the door. You got a warrant and we take you out. This one, we knew the kid was a bad kid, and he had a straight warrant for kidnapping. So we had a plan approaching the door, and it went to shit in a second. We knocked on the door, announced our presence. As soon as we say the police, fucking rounds start coming through the window and through the door. This kid was just waiting and just started hammering rounds at us. So one of my buddies right out of the gate gets fucking hit in the head. He's down, right in the side of the head, right through the door of the round. I don't know how the hell he managed to do it, but he fell back and was still returning fire with a hole in the side of his head. And then, so if you can picture it, there's the door and then like a big square window to the right of the door, this motel. I was at the window side. And I just started fucking dumping rounds into the room. I don't even know what I was shooting at. That came into play after because a lieutenant asked me for a public safety statement after, like what was your target backdrop, and it's like my fucking friend just got shot in the head directly next to me, and I was like, I didn't care if there was fucking like stacks of people in there. I was gonna shoot them. I was fucking gonna light the room on fire. And it caused like kind of a big thing, but like when there's bullets coming by your head and you don't have time to like, obviously you guys know the deal, like your target backdrop, but like that thing, you just got to react. You're taking like heavy fire from a room, It was a fucking mess. So then the other guy had to get obviously evac'd out. So we had one guy pull this guy, to cover, and we're just still dumping me, and one other guy just keep dumping rounds into the room, and ultimately they eventually got us out of there, called SWAT in. He was dead in the room, but what a fucking mess.
Was he by himself in there?
Yeah, he was by himself, and the other officer survived. Luckily, when the round went through the metal door, it flattened out like a penny, and otherwise, if it went through the window, that round would have killed him. But it came out like a penny, and just stuck in this. Didn't penetrate his skull, thank God.
How many shots were fired in that incident?
Oh, a lot. Yeah,
A whole lot.
A whole lot. Yeah.
So that was your second shooting in 14
That was
months?
the second one, yeah. Yeah, so I'll go into a little bit of this because I don't want to get in a bad mood. This is a good day down here. But, so that was May 5th, 2017. We're cleared by the district attorney, good shoot, in July 2017. So we're like, fuck yeah, we're going back to work because we were out of work the whole time. And we did seek therapy after that. We were constantly talking to people or the same person, and we were all together because we were out on admin time. So July we get cleared. This is a different police chief at the time. We're like, we're going back to work. He's like, yeah, not so fast. I'm going to do a IA on you guys to make sure you didn't violate any department policies. So we're like, the DA just fucking cleared us. What policies did we violate? That's what I'm going to check. So he didn't call us until Halloween, October 2017. The shooting's in May. We're still out. No one's telling us anything. And then he's like, all right, the IA's over. You guys can come back to work. We were fucking bullshit that we were out that long. Like, you're doing an IA on us for doing our job. Like, we didn't do... We pretty much got lit up for knocking on a door. So...
We have a pretty... I don't know how to word this properly. It's kind of notorious here to be under investigation. 4 months would be a record.
No kidding.
To be
I
cleared.
got a squad mate who's going on 4 years.
Oh my God.
Yeah, we
So
got
we
a lot
should
of
have complained then.
A lot of really long investigations
that's crazy.
that go on stuff like that. And so when you say 4 months, I'm like,
Yeah.
not horrible, but
Usually, as soon as you're cleared by the DA, like, that's the green light to go back to work, you would think. And then, all this, you're on TV saying how great your officers were, but then you're fucking trying to bang us on an IA investigation. Like, come on.
Out of curiosity, what is the culture like as far as the district attorney in that part of the country, like where you worked?
They're pro-police.
Okay.
Yeah. I know that's like changed with, the current climate, whatever's going on, but he's pro-police. But so that made we were pretty fired up over that. So as a result of one of my friends did not shoot, there was 5 of us there at that call. One of them did not shoot. He was behind us, so he kind of, I always told him if he did shoot, he would have fucking shot us in the head, shot us in the back of the head. So he was kind of not in the position to shoot. And there was some other things with him, but he started drinking heavily because he felt that he didn't act how he should have, and he ended up dying, drank himself to death over it.
that's the when you find a vice that's not positive, those are the issues we've run into over and over again.
Yeah. And I don't want to blame it all on that like chief, but he was in a fucking bad spot. And he left two of his daughters and a wife.
That's one of the things that Joe and the wellness unit really they do regularly is check on the guys that are out because they're being investigated, right? And that's got to be one of the most uncomfortable conversations to have because
there's something else behind the scenes too there, but advocating for these people with the administration, because that's where it can really just spiral down badly.
Right.
Is you got officers who are struggling in their situations post-incident, and then it's just not handled appropriately and without empathy or really an understanding. And they're not going to open up to the administration necessarily unless they decide to go off.
Yeah.
Sometimes that happens. But they're not really going to open up in the same way they might open up to Joe or Kent. And so that stuff starts coming out, and it's almost like someone needs to advocate for them.
Right.
Someone with a clear head who can articulate and sit down a chief and explain, this is what's going on with this troop. And here's what you need to do to be helping them. This decision you made and this other thing with them, it's really hurting them. Yeah.
Yeah, and another little, just to like rewind a little to this second chief. I won't say his name because he's a shitty human being, but there was a transition period between the first shooting and the second one. New chief coming in, and I always say like I would give back awards. I don't care about awards. I'd rather have my dog back for 10 seconds than have every award. The awards don't define who I am or what I've done. I don't care about them. But that chief that came in during the second shooting, he was like, hey, the former chief put you in for these awards for the first shooting. He's like, but I'm going to pull your name because I don't reward people for taking human lives. And I was like, he said that to me. I'm like,
keep your awards. You know?
Yeah, I was like, to say that to me after he didn't know like what everything I'd been through, but I was like, holy shit. Like this guy just said that to me. And that was one of the things, guys, like you're angry, you don't like that chief. I'm like, if you only fucking knew what he, like, save your fucking award. I don't want it. But to say that to me, like, you think that's something I got to live with for the rest of my life, and he's saying that.
Terrible leadership can
awful.
It can ruin departments and careers.
Right.
Let's talk about something happy.
Yeah.
2019. You had a daughter.
Yes, a life-changing moment, which I told you all about how I was like I was overinvested in work. That was it for me. Work. Didn't want to take time off because I didn't want to miss a canine call. Always thought if I took time off, I'd be letting down the guys on my shift. So I have everyone says when your children are born, it's life-changing. Like that moment at the hospital is life-changing, and it is. It's like a light went off in my head that it wasn't all about me anymore. There was something bigger, and I needed to take not a step back, but I needed to like dial it down what I was doing. Instead of being obsessed with work, I needed to be obsessed with her, and that's what definitely changed me, the way I thought. I always said, like, this is going to sound horrible saying this, but yeah, cops, we think we're invincible, and if our number is called, then it's called. Like, that's why we're doing this, and I thought that way. I was like, yeah, if it's my time, it's my time. And then I'm like, what the fuck?
Now you have something really to live for.
Yeah, like, why would I ever say or think that? Like, but I did. That's what I thought. But this gave me like a whole different view on life, and it was I dialed it back. I think KITT realized it too because he hated everyone, but he loved her. He would like around the house before her. He would be like running at the door if he heard someone knocking on the door, and now he was kind of just like mellowed out. It was in the train. It was even nervous. He's like, I don't know what's going to happen. You better keep him away from that baby because if he gets a hold of the baby, we know what's going to happen. And yeah,
They're very intuitive, and he was feeding off you.
Yeah,
as well. You changed, and so did KITT.
Yep. And I remember I had a hellacious bite. It was like a car chase. This was right after she was born. Car chase, bail out, and fuck this guy up pretty bad. 10 minutes later, we go right to the house, go home. He's fucking sitting there licking my daughter's face. I'm like, holy shit. I didn't want to say like where his mouth just was 10 minutes before, but right. That's how he was. He could just turn it off. Where before he couldn't turn it off. He was, wanted to go all the time. So
everybody tries to explain to people that don't have kids how that actually changes you, but it's so overwhelming that it changes your entire outlook on what you do on a daily basis, right? So, like you said, you were all in on this is what I'm going to be. I'm going to be the best dog guy there is, and then in an instant, it's like, hey, that's number two now.
Yeah,
easily, right?
Yep.
Number one is my main focus now, and this is all I need to do.
Yeah,
and it was interesting. I really want to get into it a little bit more. How did your work pattern change? Like, how did you guys get smarter about things? Did you see a change in the way KITT actually worked?
Yeah, no, he was still the same as soon as he went to work. He was all business, but for me, like if the phone rang, I was like jumping to go. Like there was no like I didn't care where we were. If I was out to dinner, I was leaving, go home and get my dog, and that part of it changed. Like if I was hanging out with my daughter on the couch and the phone rang and they're like, we got this, I'd be like, I'll get you someone else to go. Where before I would be like on the phone trying to put my pants on to get in my cruiser and go. But his home life changed, but work didn't. He was still an asshole at work.
But literally a different animal at home around the girl.
Yeah. Where before it was like he was on all the time. Now it was like the light switch. I could turn him on and off.
All right. Yeah, this part's not going to be fun, but it's a huge part of your story here. Let's talk about June 4th of 2021. Lead us up to what's going on.
So it was a Friday afternoon, gorgeous weather. I actually had nothing to do that morning, so I'm like, oh, this is good. So I'll just get to go to the gym and do what I want. And that changed pretty quick. So I get a call from the dispatcher, and he just says, we had a situation down at one of the housing projects. Can you come down? I didn't really know much about the call, but I didn't. It wasn't like a big deal. I thought I would drive there, find this guy. Maybe KITT would get a bite. I'd come home, shower, and do the report later. It was nothing, no red flags raised. So I'm driving there. It starts like ramping up a little. They're like, suspect definitely has one gun, maybe two. Yes, just confirmed that he has two firearms, fled in the wood line. Now, this is 45 minutes old, so I'm going there like, hey, he's got guns, but he's probably long gone. Got on the bus, or they were locking down schools. There was 2 schools that are close by. So it was kind of like a shit show. They were making it a shit show. So I get down there. They tell me what the deal is. I was in that area of the woods one other time, and it's horrible. It's like a swamp and just a shitty area. So because of that, I said I'm going to need 2 backup guys because you can't, like, it's so thick in there you can't see your hand in front of your face. So I asked for 2 backup guys. So one of them's the drug canine guy. He's got a narcotics dog. He's the fucking best. So he was like, I'm going to come with you. And then this other guy, Matt Donoghue, he stepped up right on the radio. He wanted to he just wanted to be part of it because he's like, oh yeah, I'll go. Some guys want to go on canine tracks. He wanted to go. So he's like, he steps up on the radio. He said he answered like super quick so no one could like talk over him.
Hey, Bill, we have a lot of civilian listeners as well. Why don't you explain what the the cover guys would do for you?
As canine handlers, patrol canine handlers, you're supposed to be the guy with the leash and the dog. Your focus is, you're the locating tool. You're focused on the dog. Your cover guys are your shooters. Usually the handler is not going to be the shooter. It's going to be your cover guys. That's how we train. So that's why I wanted 2, just so we could protect the front and the back of us, because it's just so people don't understand how bad this area is. You really cannot see 10 feet in front of you. So we get rolling. So we're going to step off, and just to show you like where our head was at too. One of the guys was like, I got to go to the bathroom before we go. We don't know how long we're going to be in there. We always say piss when you can, because you don't know when you're not going to be able to piss. So we were thinking like back after everything happened, it was pretty crazy. So he goes to the bathroom before we go in, and I didn't even know what I was doing. I pulled my gun out, and he's like, what the fuck is going on? And I was like, I'll just cover you while you go to the bathroom. Like, we don't usually do that, but this is how we were thinking going in there. So then we're ready to go. We go in the woods. We probably went about 150 yards into the woods, and it was fucking nasty in there, just wet and gross. And then at one point, KITT stops, and there was these, we like laugh now, but these thorns, I've never seen thorns like this big. They were huge. And he starts rubbing his head in the thorns. He starts smashing his head in there, and we were laughing, didn't know what was going on, but we ultimately figured he was like psyching himself up for what was about to happen. That's the only thing we can think about why he was doing it. So he stops that and then just makes a beeline for this 4-foot rock. Now I have him on a 15-foot lead, so we're moving pretty quick. And a bad guy can hear us coming. It's an 80-pound dog crashing through brush. You're not stealth. You're not some ninja rolling through the wood line. He can hear you coming. So as soon as KITT comes to that rock, he jumps up over the rock, one motion, and I only describe it as like how a dolphin swims like in and out of water. That's how he was like going through this shit. This last like 20 yards of shit, and he navigates the rock. At the same time, I see the bad guy stand up. KITT makes contact with his chest, and then I saw the gun I could like describe to a T it's like crazy, like the details. And I always say my 3 shootings is a time where someone hits that button and it's in slow motion. That was when it happened. So he fires 3 quick shots into KITT, and I fucking knew it was over right then. And now it's him and I standing probably less than, we're 5 feet apart now. So someone's fucking gonna get hit. Like there was no debating, like this is a bad spot. And then it was like, let's just see who can shoot faster. That's all I was always thinking. And I started dumping rounds into him. The first couple rounds, I describe it as like a cartoon. He, like when someone gets punched in like a cartoon gets punched, he like folded in half and went like fucking flying into a tree. Like it was like I was firing a bazooka. That's like, I was like, holy fuck. Like it just crippled him and he went flying off a tree. But then he came back to life and started fucking shooting. And it was just hammering rounds at each other from that distance. And then the backup guy started shooting. Dickie had a rifle and he just started laying waste, just putting rounds into this guy. So we fired over 40 rounds into this guy, and that was it. And during this time, I'm trying to reload now. I dump my mag, go to reload, and I can tell the listeners all 3 of my shootings, like if you think it's some shootings are chaotic and you're yelling, my 3 shootings we were talking like this. Like if we had body cams that day, you would have thought we were fucking nuts, because it was just talking like this. And I told Dickie, I said, I can't reload. And he's like, what's the matter? This is in the middle of a gunfight. And I said, my arm just got fucking blown off. And we looked down at my arm, and it literally looked like my fucking arm got blown off. I was like, how the hell could a handgun do this to my arm? And I was losing so much blood. It was, my elbow was coming out my tricep. You guys can see my forearm now. It's destroyed. This was all just ripped apart. And I was losing a ton of blood. And I knew if I started panicking, I was fucking dead. I knew at that time I was thinking like, you're going to fucking probably die. But that's when I like kicked it in and was like, I'm not dying in this shithole where that housing project where I was like, I'm not dying in this shithole. And Dickie put a tourniquet on me, and we knew the guy was eliminated. We knew it for sure. There was he wasn't getting out of the woods alive. And the rest it starts getting foggy, because I knew I was in a bad spot. And I tell the story. Dickie was calling over the radio where we were. He was trying to give our location so we'd get an ambulance in there. And there was like, I could hear the radio, and the people were saying like, where are you guys? And I'm thinking like, where are we? Like, you can't hear the fucking gunfire? Like, we had a perimeter set up. Like, how do you not know like a general vicinity where we are? So I remember hearing that stuff, but I was going in and out, and they kept saying like, telling me to like keep my eyes open and stuff. But it was pretty bad. And then they started, I had so much blood on me that they didn't know if I was bleeding underneath my vest. I got hit 3 times in my vest too, and then twice in the arm. And they started, this is actually a funny part, they were ripping my vest off and cut my clothes off, and Dickie kind of fucked me because there was poison ivy there. And yeah. I was getting rolled in poison ivy. The poison ivy
stripped all your uniform off first,
yeah,
right? And
oh
then
yeah,
rolled you?
yeah. And he was like, "Where's the poison ivy?" And then fucking dragged me over to the poison ivy. But yeah. So then they put me on. They just scoop me up and bring me out of the woods. And as I'm losing it, I'm seeing certain people. This is the crazy part. So I see one of my friends, and I remember like making eye contact with him, and he looked like he lost like the biggest game of his life, like his face. And I was like, whoa, that's weird that he's looking like that. I'm saying this to myself as I'm like going out of it. And then one of my friends opens the ambulance door, and I remember looking at him, and he was bawling, crying, like uncontrollably crying. And I was like, fuck. Like, if he's crying, this can't be fucking good. I'm going in the ambulance, he's crying that bad. So then I get in the ambulance, and this is fucking, I don't like, believe in this weird shit, and people may think I'm full of shit, but I'm telling you, this is nuts. I'm in the ambulance, and I was saying to myself, why are they putting me in an ambulance without a roof on it? I was thinking that, like, what the fuck kind of ambulance is this that I'm in? All you could see was, like, it was like the sun was shining on me, and then, like, I think that was my sign to, like, are you going to die, or are you going to fight your way out of this? And then my deputy chief, Mike Want, was, like, standing over me, and I, like, focused on his gold badge, and then, like, it started, like, literally his badge came into focus, and that's all I kept staring at was his badge, and I was like, fuck, that must have been the time, my decision, like, you go on to one side or you go on to the other, and I picked the right side.
So you're saying you had an NDE?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wild, which I've heard stories about that before, and I'm like,
No,
I would say, like,
about seeing the sun is because you're coming up out of that ambulance.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I've heard stories like this before, and I'm like, yeah, is that true? It's fucking true.
Yeah.
It's nuts. And then that's when I was like, I started to get back with it. The pain was, the tourniquet hurt worse than the gunshot. I think we talked about this too, Scott. Like, I remember the tourniquet. I was like, holy shit.
It'll definitely take your mind off the gunshot.
Yeah. So I remember in the ambulance, I was the medic in the back of the ambulance is a friend of mine, and I was like, you need to give me something for the pain. And he was flustered too because we were friends. And I remember him asking Mike, who was in the back of the ambulance, what does this? He was like taking his med kit out, and he's like, what does this say? And he was holding it up. And Mike was like, what does it fucking say? You're the paramedic. Like, I don't know. I could hear all this going on. And then, they blasted me with some nasal morphine, which helped for the, they took me to the local hospital instead of, the original plan was to go into Boston, but they said I wouldn't have made it because I lost so much blood, so they had to take me to the local trauma center, social hospital. But I remember the ambulance ride, I was like, how the hell did they get there that quick? It seemed like, because it's a few minutes away, but it seemed like a 30-second ambulance ride. And we were getting, like, jostled around the back of the ambulance because the guy was driving, like, his balls off to try to get to the hospital. But the things that I remember, and I was pretty much unconscious. Like, guys were telling me after. That's why, like, telling you these things it's wild. So, and then another funny story too. I remember going to the hospital. There was so many people already at the hospital, and I was again in and out of it. And they asked me, like, can we get you anything to make you comfortable? And all I could taste was like I was chewing on bullets. It's all I could taste in my mouth. And I asked for a popsicle to get that fucking taste out of my mouth. And then I threw up immediately after, they said, like, as soon as I fucking took a bite out of it. But I was there was so much chaos because everyone was trying to, there's a cop that shot in their ER. It was so loud in there. It was like a fucking concert in there, everyone yelling. And I remember one doctor, he stood up. I don't know, he was a short guy, and he stood up on something, and he was like, everyone shut the fuck up in here. And that was like, everyone calmed down. I calmed down after that. He's like, this is what we're going to do. And he started explaining it. And that kind of like, that was like the reset I needed to in there, because I was like panicking, seeing all the people and hearing like, we're gonna get him to the OR right away. I didn't know how bad I was, but he kind of like settled things down, and he settled his whole staff down just by taking control of the situation.
There's something about the calm, right? When you deal with people that are used to being in stressful situations and they remain calm, it calms everything else down.
Yep.
It's remarkable how easily that is passed on to everybody else.
So true.
What's infectious? I mean, as it should be. That's why you have to, because everybody was going ape shit in there, and you were in his house, and he took control.
Yeah, everyone has their faculties actually searching for something to anchor to, and it just really, we see this a lot in critical incidents where people pretty much know what to do. It's just they're juggling so much information and stimulus and trying to divide attention. It just takes one person to say, get it together, this is what we're doing. And then everyone can kind of just single mind track in that direction on, okay, this is the path and this is where we're going.
Right.
How did the city deal with KITT's loss after that?
They were amazing. It was, we describe Braintree as small town America, big city problems. That's what Braintree's like. And it was, when I came home from the hospital, like, I'll show you guys the videos after. It was like a funeral for a guy that was alive. It was fucking nuts. Like people on the street with signs and just people lining the streets just to like thank you for like what happened. And then fast forward like a couple weeks later or a week later, we did the funeral for KITT, and the same thing. Like if you saw the outpouring of support from that community, like thank God, like that's
We needed that.
we did.
Yeah,
The whole place needed it. Yeah, and there's other towns that are, most of the towns are like very supportive, like police supportive, like blue towns around us. But this was like on a whole nother level. Like I knew they liked us, but I didn't know it was like this.
Can you tell us how KITT saved lives that day?
Yeah, this is another one too that I didn't know until after. So this guy, it was like it was an ambush, plain and simple. I didn't even see this part of it, but he brought these bottles out, like plastic bottles, this guy, and he fucking lined them up about 10 feet in front of him, which we think he lined them up so we'd knock him over, he'd hear him, then he can get up and just start dumping rounds. I never saw the bottles because I was just focused. I was like laser focused on KITT, what he was doing. I never even saw the bottles. They were like, "How you didn't see the bottles?" Never saw them. But that's what he had a 45-minute jump on us. Like I said, you're going to hear us coming. We're coming with the dog. You know we're coming. You can hear the dog. He knew what the deal was, and he picked. If I was going to go do what he did, that's a spot I would have picked. It was like the perfect rock to use, perfect area to use, and he fucking just ran into the wrong bunch of guys.
And KITT, he was killed instantly.
Yeah. Yep.
The guy got 3 shots off at point blank.
Yeah, 3 pretty much contact shots. Yeah.
When did you find that out?
Oh, I knew right away.
You knew right away.
Yeah, and the other thing with like Dickie, they get me out of there. That was my big thing too. I didn't get to say goodbye, and I didn't want him to be in there alone, obviously. But all the stuff I heard after, Dickie was like, I'm not leaving. He stayed there. He's like, I'm not leaving till you get someone to stay with this dog. So he stayed with him until someone came in.
So you were in a couple really close, intimate gunfights.
Yes.
Knife fight. You've always been the guy that's in shape, right? You talk about how you always wanted to be at the gym. If you weren't at the gym, you were with the dog, right? Dog handlers are in dog handler shape, right? They have to be able to keep up with their dog at the very least. Was that always a point of focus for you?
Yeah, my doctor says that too. He's like, if you weren't in somewhat decent shape, it probably would have been a different outcome. But I can't. You're getting dragged through the woods by an 80-pound dog. You can't be the guy that's like, you can't be the weak link. That's just how I feel about. You'll see some canine guys that might be dumpy. I can't do that. Like you have to be. You can't be the guy that's like, I got to take a break, and like you're the tip of the spear. You're the one. You're the guy. It's your show when you're out there with the dog. And I didn't want to be the weak link. So that was why I still do take fitness super serious. I was told I wouldn't do a bunch of stuff. My doctor, I was told I could never do a push-up again because of my arm, and I was like, yeah, it's not happening. So
you talked about KITT being about his funeral and how he was honored. Can you describe that to the listener?
Yeah, so all you Patriots haters out there, Robert Kraft reached out. We didn't reach out to him. He offered Gillette Stadium up to do a funeral for KITT. Amazing what he did, and so we had it was crazy. It was.
How many people attended?
Oh God, it was too many to even say. It was horrible, but awesome at the same time, if that makes sense. Just
horribly beautiful.
Yes,
is probably what I imagine it to be.
Yeah, it was just to see how many people came out for. Yeah, I didn't want him to be defined by one. He did so. I had so many good calls, and he did so many good things. I always said I didn't want him to be defined by one thing, but now that one thing, he'll be memorialized forever. There's a statue in front of our PD. There's a couple other statues that other departments reached out to me and asked if they could use his likeness, that statue. for their own department. So there's one in Weirton, West Virginia, that's going to be unveiled in a couple weeks, and then Kansas City PD is doing one too. So there'll be 3 KITT statues out there. So it's pretty cool.
That's incredible. So I would like to see the photos of those, please.
Yo, definitely.
You're a new father. You've already got all these critical incidents stacked on already. You lost your partner. You damn near lost your arm. Now at this point, where were you from a mental aspect?
I think the platform I have, I've been able to help more people than I thought I would, and that's kind of like what's saving me. Like I don't have this huge presence on social media, but I do have people that I've met cops from all over the country that heard the story that are like, "Hey, can I ask you a question?" It's crazy the people you meet through tragedy and through this stuff. Like I don't have all the answers about OISs, but I can probably help you. Like I'll tell you what worked for me and what didn't. So it's opened up my eyes, and hopefully I can continue to, that's part of this. I know we're going to talk about the KITT Foundation. That's how I met Scott after all this happened. I wanted to do, being out of work sucked because, we don't make $1 million. And that was my thing for me being out. You start like, oh shit, like my mortgage, this, that, everything starts adding up. So my thing was, how can I help other canine guys that are going to go through this, what I'm going through now? And that was the whole, at the time, the sole purpose of the KITT Foundation, so we could help other canine handlers that are going through what I'm going through. That's why we started it. And then shortly after we started it, the canine world is small. You hear about all these stories. If a dog gets killed, a dog gets shot, you hear about it. And someone sent me a message like, did you see what happened in Dallas? And I was like, no. And then I read the article. I was like, fuck. Like, we got to find out if he needs anything. And we didn't know how, probably getting flooded with calls down here. Like, how can we help him? They're like trying to vet. I think you guys were trying to vet us. And it was like, oh, what are these guys? A bunch of whackers coming down here. But we had the Brotherhood for the Fallen, Pat Monroe and Mike Miller. I reached out to them because I know they had a Dallas connection, which they did. And they put us in touch with a couple guys down here. And I think you guys thought we were kind of crazy coming down here, right?
I mean, you are kind of crazy.
We still think
we're
you're
definitely
crazy.
Yeah, we're definitely a little crazy, but
It's good kind of crazy, though.
yeah, we just wanted to. I didn't know Scott. Heard the story, and I just wanted to do something to help him. And then
There's a lot of similarities
yes,
in that.
Very similar.
yeah,
But
and
get into the KITT Foundation. Tell us about KITT Foundation, what it is, and what you guys actually do.
so basically, that's what we do. If you're in a critical incident, canine handler in a critical incident, we'll support you in any way we can. We'll hopefully one day take it to the next level and do some training. We did one training venue that do like some like tactical training with canines. We have enough guys that have enough experience, and we're doing a bunch of first aid stuff. Now in Massachusetts, you can treat working dogs if they get injured before, paramedics and stuff couldn't. If a dog got hurt, working dog got hurt, they just leave them there. They couldn't do anything. Now the laws have changed, and we're doing that part of it, the education part.
So it's a national.
Yeah, that's what we're trying. We're trying, and hopefully the word gets out there, and we can continue to help people. So now word's starting to spread that we're. People always ask like what the catch is when we reach out to these people. Like we reached out to Lee County Sheriff's Office after they got devastated by those hurricanes, and we went down there in November of 24. Some equipment that they lost, we replaced it. But there's always like a catch. Okay, like what do you need from us? But we don't want anything from you. We're just trying to help people that are out there working.
Is there a way to support the KITT Foundation?
Yeah, we're on Instagram, Facebook, all social media platforms, the KITT Foundation.
And they've got donation spots on there?
Yep, there's donation spots on there. If there's people listening that have questions for me, too, you can find me on Instagram. I think it's just I'll have to look at that. I don't go crazy on social media, but
I'll post it on there. I'll
Yeah,
put
if
it
you wanna-
in the episode description. I'll put
Okay.
I'll put all the handles on there.
yeah, like I said, I don't have all the answers for you people listening, but if I can help in any way or just any to listen, I'm willing to do that. So
Joe and I have talked a lot about service, and that's kind of how he and I deal with a lot of our stuff. Some people prefer therapy, some people prefer different things. Helping other people in service is really kind of what gets me off better, right? Joe likes it. It kind of seems like that's right up your alley too. The service to others is a huge point in helping heal what I've gone through and probably what you've gone through. Can you talk about that some?
Yeah, I wanted to say too, like I do believe in like the therapy aspect of it, but now where I'm at in my whole journey, I'd rather like talk to guys like Scott. Like I can go talk to a therapist, but I don't want to. I'd rather go talk to like the working cop that's thinking the same way I'm thinking and like bounce stuff off him. I think it just, for me, any cop that's been in the shit, I'd rather sit down and talk to you than that's just how I am. I'm not anti-therapist. It's great, but I would rather go talk to someone who's done it. And I think that was my first, to rewind back to my first OIS, when like debriefs, they're great. They had a team come in and do the debrief, and I said, like, have any of them like been in an officer involved shooting and a fatal officer involved shooting? And they were like, well, no. I'm like, oh, I want a guy in there that's so I can ask the hard questions. And that's what I would rather talk to the person that said they did it instead of the person that said, well, I read 3 books about it. Okay, I don't fucking care about your books. I want to know like how you're feeling because you actually did it. So
yeah, I'm by no means saying that therapy is wrong or that it's not necessary. I fully believe in that also. But the thing that I learned in therapy is that service helps me. And I've seen several examples of that throughout our time dealing with ATO and just the wellness group in general.
If I can kind of piggyback on what Billy said about talking with people that with therapists versus people that who've been down that road before. I remember when I called the therapist, whatever you call him, with Dallas. There was a long pause after I said, hey, this is, told him my name and that I was calling so that I could come talk with him so that I could get back to work. And there was a long pause after I told him that. And his response was, you're just now calling? That struck me as it pissed me off. Kind of like Billy when you said the chief said, I don't reward people. I mean, that to me, I think was the same gut punch that you got from the chief telling you that. Like, what do you mean I'm just now calling you? You're the goddamn therapist, where my phone hadn't been ringing either, but you're asking me why I'm just now calling? So we got off with definitely the wrong foot with that. So when I did go to see him, I didn't want to be there. I was mad at him. I was mad at the response that I got. So I think because of that, I probably was closed-minded and wasn't wanting to hear anything that he had to say anyway at that point. The whole office setting and this uncomfortable staring at each other back and forth, it was a huge turnoff for me. Asking some of the guys that had been down that road, hey, what did you feel? And just that talking with them about my situation, and even maybe not even so much asking them questions, but just talking with them, I felt like I was being heard by someone who understood where I was coming from. And for me, that was a greater source of help in my recovery than talking with some highly educated individual who could give me all of the terminology and all of that. But that didn't mean near as much to me and wasn't a help like talking with somebody who'd been down that road.
Right.
Especially when they get off on the wrong foot by the first initial conversation.
Yeah.
Correct. And I'm not bad-mouthing the professionals. It just wasn't for me. But one of the promises that I made to myself during my recovery is when people called, I made the promise to myself that I was going to be honest with them. So on those days, and it's a roller coaster ride after you go through something like that. But on the days that were bad, I let them know, I don't know, I'm feeling low today. Today wasn't as good as yesterday. And on those days that I was feeling good, I let them know that. But I think if you're not going to go talk to the professionals, you need to be honest with yourself and honest with the people who are calling to check on you. And when you're feeling low, let them know you're feeling low. When you're having a good day, let them know you're having a good day. But I think that for me, the key to talking with the people who had been down that road before is being honest with myself and being honest with them.
Yeah, I think the standard answer for us is when people ask is like, "You good?" I still do that. I'll be like, "Yeah, I'm good," but like I don't sit home and cry every day. From what I always say too, I'd rather be me than like the guy that sits behind a desk for 40 years. But I'm still a little fucked up, and I have good days and bad days. Sometimes I should maybe tell people that today's a bad day, but I have people to reach out to, and yeah, I think you just got to be honest with yourself. You can't do it alone, and
100%.
That's that.
When Billy came down, I remember Sergeant Wolverton kind of told me hey, there's some guys from Boston. The canine handler wants to meet you, and I wasn't sure what to think at first, but I was like, sure, I'll be happy to meet him. But one of the things that I still remember to this day is I was thinking that it was going to be just one or two individuals. But when I walked into the restaurant there, and there's like basically a whole room full of them. I don't remember exactly how many, but there was a table and then some of them and I'm like, holy cow, all of these guys came down here to support me and to meet me. I mean, that's something that I will take to my grave, remembering. Is just like, wow, what a good group of guys to travel this far across the country to come see me, to come hear my story and help me. And I definitely think there was some divine intervention there, if you will, in that I felt like I had known Billy for years. I mean, we hit it off, and it was something pretty special to meet somebody you'd never met before from a different part of the country. I don't travel a lot, so it was just remarkable how quickly we hit it off, and then telling our stories to each other, and it was just a very special time. And I've thanked Sergeant Wolverton and the guys who put that together so many times of just how appreciative I am that they didn't blow them off. They invited them down, opened up the welcome arms just immensely for these guys, and that was just a very special time in my recovery.
And we got Scott to come to Boston.
Oh yeah,
he actually got on a plane and came up. Yeah,
in
October.
His cowboy hat?
No, he didn't. We were upset about that.
Terrified of flying, but got some medications and got on board.
That's good, man. That's actually great. And man, I wanted to say thank you.
Yeah, thank you guys for having me.
Having you's easy, right? You're the one making all the effort here and doing all the hard stuff. And number one, coming on here and telling your story. I know that's reliving the worst days of your life, right? It's not great, but there's value in it, and a lot of people are going to take away a lot of good stuff from this. So thank you for doing that. But thank you more for reaching out initially and doing what you do to help other people, man. It's great. I can't tell you how it actually affected our group.
Yeah, and I tell everyone about when I talk about you guys. I listen to the podcast all the time, try to get the guys up where I am to listen to it. And you guys did, like you and Roy, meeting us at the airport, like you guys treated us like you knew us for 25 years, that like we were working side by side with you guys every day. And that was just, we couldn't believe it.
We are different states, but we are still family.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, here it is. Final question.
Let's do it.
What advice do you have for anybody looking into getting into law enforcement or canine?
Go be a firefighter. No, yeah.
And cut.
Yeah. No, I think obviously the current climate here, law enforcement as a whole, is not good. I hope it changes for the better. I don't see it happen anytime soon, but if this is what you want to do, follow your heart and do it. But it's times have changed. It's a different game here. And for all those who want to get in canine, don't get in canine for the wrong reasons. Don't get in canine because you like dogs and you want to take home car. get into canine to go do the work and get into some bad situations. But that's it. And to the mental health thing, like, there's so many resources out there that you can help with and that you can get help with. But honestly, like, talk to your peers, check on your peers, check on your people. Like, that's the bottom line. People don't get it. You don't have to. You guys are doing it, but like, it's not hard to say, like, to your coworker, how are things going? You don't have to, like, wait for the bad fucking call to jump on them and be like, hey, what do you need? So that's my advice to people, is check on your people. Like, it's not hard to do. And like I said, if there's anything I can do for anyone that's been in some shit and just wants a different perspective, reach out.
Hey brother, hey sister, I'll never give up on you. Hey Mrs., hey mister, I'll see this all the way through. No matter how far the sun and the moon, I'll never give up on you. Down when you're lonely, I'll pull you up. Life leaves you heavy when the going gets tough. I'll be your shoulder, together we'll run up from the bottom, yeah, we'll rise above. Hey brother, hey sister, I'll never give up on you. Hey Mrs., hey mister, I'll see this all the way through. No matter how far the sun and the moon, I'll never give up on you. I'll never give up on you. Hey brother, hey sister, I'll never give up on you. Hey Mrs., hey mister, I'll see this all the way through. No matter how far, for the gold and the blue, I'll never give up on you.